Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Everything shared here is based on personal speculation and opinion. There are places that, on the surface, look like sterile spaces devoted to healing, responsibility, and cold procedures running on schedule minute by minute, but the deeper people go, the more they realize that behind the spotless glass, beneath the harsh white lights, and inside those neatly stamped files, there is always another layer of darkness, quieter, more sophisticated, and far crueler. Garland Memorial now wears exactly that face. It is no longer simply a hospital where people come to hold on to life. It is slowly revealing itself as a maze built out of secrets, where every hallway could be a path leading to betrayal, every lab could be the starting point of a dirty transaction, and every person in medical scrubs could be hiding a truth powerful enough to destroy someone else's life. In that maze, Lia Whitmore is the one who makes people the most uneasy, not because she openly displays cruelty, but because of the way she is always present in a manner that sends a chill down the spine. She appears in corners where no one thinks she should be. She hears things that were never meant for her ears. She watches with a gaze that is too calm to precise, as if every move other people make has already been mapped out in her mind. What makes Lia terrifying is not an explosive temper or a reckless decision, but her near total control over her emotions. She is never impulsive. She never rushes to expose anyone. She never confronts the truth head on the moment she has proof. She simply stays silent, watches, steps back, and lets suspicion grow inside the other person until panic begins to consume them. That silence makes her more dangerous than anyone who loves to flaunt power. It leaves people unable to tell whether she is protecting the hospital from a criminal network or quietly making sure that network is not exposed too soon. Ashley is the first to truly feel that something is wrong, though she does not see everything at once. At first, the one thing that concerns her most is Grayson. There is something about him that is difficult to explain, a kind of pull that does not come from perfection but from the feeling that he is battling something larger than himself. He carries the real exhaustion of a man who has not rested in a long time, someone who often seems to be holding himself together by force. And that vulnerability hidden beneath his irritability touches the softest part of Ashley. She wants to believe that behind Grayson's temper is the pressure of caring for a sick mother, the despair of financial collapse, a life that has been pushing him closer and closer to the edge. But the more that belief grows, the stronger her vague discomfort becomes. Grayson speaks about his mother with convincing pain, yet there are moments when he reacts far too aggressively when Ashley casually touches on a small detail in his story. He does not panic like a desperate man in need of help. He reacts more like someone trying to stop anyone from cracking open a wall of secrets. At times, he seems crushed by money problems, yet somehow remains standing in a strangely steady way, as though some hidden source is always supporting him from behind. There are moments when he softens around Ashley, making her believe that what exists between them is real. But the second she comes too close to the dark corners of his life, he turns cold, defensive, even almost hostile. That feeling hurts Ashley more than suspicion itself, because she does not know whether she is standing beside a broken man being crushed by life or someone using that brokenness as camouflage to hide his guilt. Lia's presence does not calm those suspicions, it turns them into obsession. Ashley starts noticing a pattern that keeps her awake at night. Every time she and Grayson share a fragile moment, a private meeting, a sensitive exchange, or even just a moment when Grayson loses control in an unusual way, Lia is always somewhere nearby. Not always obviously, but enough to plant the terrifying feeling in Ashley's mind that this department head knows far too much. Lia never looks surprised. She never asks direct questions the way a strict superior normally would. Instead, she lets out a few cold, hard reminders, just enough for the other person to understand they are being watched, yet never anything concrete enough to push back against. That behavior forces Ashley to start looking at Lia differently. A department head who truly cared about hospital discipline would report wrongdoing the moment she sensed it. A genuinely innocent person would want the truth brought into the light as quickly as possible. But Lia does not. She keeps everything to herself. She gathers information the way someone collects knives before a war, and then she waits. She waits for Grayson to reveal another weakness. She waits for Ashley to be pulled deeper in. She waits for the moment when the truth, if released, would not just destroy one person, but reshape the entire balance of power inside the hospital. Her calm no longer feels like professional strength. It begins to resemble the coldness of someone who has stood beside the edge of a cliff for far too long without trembling. What is even more frightening is that Ashley slowly comes to understand there is some kind of connection between Lia and Grayson that cannot be explained by a simple superior-subordinate relationship. No confession is necessary. The way they look at each other says enough. They are not close in the way trusted allies are close. They are tense, like two people holding each other's weaknesses in their hands. Lia watches Grayson with suspicious composure, as if she knows exactly what he is capable of, what he has already done, and perhaps even the true depth of his guilt. In return, Grayson looks at Lia with a mixture of caution, anger, and restraint, like a man forced to stay in the same boat as someone he can never trust. That kind of atmosphere only exists when two people share a secret big enough to destroy them both if it is ever exposed. Ashley can no longer ignore it. She starts piecing together the scattered fragments in her mind. Lia always knows where they are. Lia always appears at the right moment. Lia warns but never acts. Grayson reacts far too strongly whenever anyone questions him too deeply. And the hospital itself is becoming more and more crowded with shadows that have no name. What once felt like romantic suspicion has now expanded into something far larger. Is Garland Memorial really just a place for saving lives, or is it the perfect transfer point for an illegal plasma trafficking network? How many people in the hospital know about it? And most frightening of all, if Lia is not an accomplice, why has she never gone to Jacob, the one following the trail of the plasma ring? Is it because she does not trust the police, or because she knows an even uglier truth that the network has already spread so deeply into powerful places that speaking out would only bury her first? While Ashley struggles with those doubts, Grayson is being pushed to the limit of what he can endure. If he were truly only a lab technician fighting to save his mother, the audience should be able to see in him the pure despair of a desperate man. But what makes his story terrifying is the ambiguity. He looks like a victim, yet carries enough signs of a perpetrator. His poverty is never fully convincing. His pain over his mother never feels real enough to erase all suspicion. His anger is not simply the reaction of a cornered man. It carries the tone of someone terrified of having forbidden's territory touched. Ashley slowly realizes Grayson may have been pulled into the plasma ring not entirely by choice, but that he has already gone far enough that turning back is no longer easy. Maybe at first he believed he was only doing it to survive, to pay medical bills, to buy his mother more time, but crimes like that never remain small. Once someone accepts the bending of morality for survival, they quickly find new reasons to keep going deeper. Then comes the moment when they can no longer tell whether they are trying to save someone else or simply trying to save themselves from being dragged down with the system. That is where Grayson becomes most tragic. He may once have been a good man. He may once have only wanted to protect his mother. But corruption does not require one loud, dramatic fall. It happens in small steps, through tiny decisions, through silence after silence, through telling yourself it is only this one time. And then one day he realizes that the one woman who ever made him want to be better is now standing right in front of the door leading to the truth that could bury him forever. Ashley is no longer a woman blindly in love. The small contradictions, the moments when she is pushed out of the story, Grayson's shifting expressions, and Lia's unnatural calm force her to grow up in the most painful way possible. She starts looking at every detail differently. A lab report with its timestamp altered. A batch of plasma with movement records that do not match. A staff member who suddenly quits and then disappears from all mention inside the hospital. A brief meeting in an area where outsiders are not supposed to be. None of those things are enough on their own to condemn anyone, but once combined, they form the shape of a conspiracy so large it becomes suffocating. Ashley begins to wonder whether she truly stumbled across something by accident, or whether Lia intentionally allowed her to see it. If Lia wants to warn her, why not speak plainly? If Lia wants to use her to test Grayson, then has Ashley been a pawn in her game from the very beginning? And if Grayson really approached her with his own private agenda, which hurts more that he is tied to a crime, or that even his feelings for her may have been part of the disguise? Those questions do not only wound Ashley, they make her furious. This is no longer the sadness of a woman betrayed in love. It is the rage of a human being realizing that her trust has been turned into a tool. That her most genuine emotions may have been used to shield a filthy network feeding on the weak inside the very place that was supposed to heal them. As Ashley moves closer to the truth, the pressure inside the hospital tightens in frightening ways. The small warning signs quickly become a clearer chain of threats. Someone goes through her belongings and then arranges them back to perfectly for her to prove it. Data she has just reviewed vanishes from the system as if it never existed. A camera in the side hallway malfunctions at exactly the wrong moment. Everything suggests that someone is watching her every step. And that is when the question of the mysterious figure known as the Skewer Killer becomes a new obsession. What if that person is not outside the hospital but very close to them? What if every step Jacob takes toward the plasma ring has actually already been redirected by someone on the inside? What if all suspicion falling on Grayson is just a fog built to hide a name even more terrifying? Ashley begins to understand that the greatest truth of the conspiracy does not lie in one individual. It lies in the structure. A network like this cannot survive because of one angry lab technician or one department head who enjoys listening at doors. It needs protection, money, altered data, falsified records, someone powerful enough to silence employees and clever enough to make sure every leak leads nowhere. That means whether Grayson or Lia are guilty or not, they may still only be high-level pieces inside a machine running much deeper than anyone imagined. But what makes the story truly cruel is not just the size of the conspiracy. It is the way it breaks each character from the inside. Lia, if she is not innocent, is the kind of person who has long grown used to justifying her own coldness. There may have been a time when she believed hiding part of the truth was the price required to prevent a larger disaster. She may once have convinced herself that damage control was the only way to protect the hospital, her career, and her own life. But the more control she exerts, the more she becomes the one deciding who is allowed to know what, who must stay silent, and who will be sacrificed so the machine can keep running. People like Lia do not panic easily because they have already traded too much to preserve their calm. That makes her anger even more dangerous. She does not smash things. She does not explode. She tightens her grip. She slowly cuts off other people's escape routes until they are suffocating without being able to name the source of it. Grayson, if he really has become part of the ring, carries a different kind of anger, darker, dirtier, more painful. It is the rage of a man who hates the system for turning him into something monstrous and hates himself for not being strong enough to refuse it. He lashes out not only because he is under suspicion, but because every question Ashley asks forces him to see the version of himself he is trying to bury. Every time Ashley moves closer to the truth, he is not only afraid of being exposed. He is afraid that her eyes will confirm what he cannot admit even to himself, that he has become part of the very thing he once thought he was only watching from the outside. As for Ashley, her tragedy lies in the fact that the more she wants to save people, the more she is forced to learn how to doubt them. She can no longer afford to be good in the innocent way she once was. Garland Memorial does not allow that. Her feelings for Grayson make her want to find a way out for him, to believe that somewhere inside him there is still a part not fully consumed by darkness. But her professional instincts, along with the growing pile of undeniable signs, force her to stand on the side of truth. That inner conflict is not beautiful or romantic. It is brutal enough to leave her nearly exhausted. If she exposes Grayson, she may destroy the man she once loved while also touching a criminal nest that could strike back at her at any moment. If she keeps trying to save him, she risks becoming an accomplice, or even a scapegoat when everything explodes. And the most painful possibility of all is that Lia may have seen all of this from the beginning and deliberately let it happen as a test to force Grayson to reveal himself, or to turn Ashley into an unwilling witness for some larger move. Once Ashley realizes she may be nothing more than a piece between two people who are both hiding the truth, she no longer feels as though she is living through a broken relationship. She feels trapped inside a power war where emotion is only a weapon and trust is the cheapest thing being bought and sold. The closer the story comes to eruption, the more distorted and suffocating the balance between the three of them becomes. The audience may begin by suspecting Grayson, since all the signs point toward him, then quickly turn their suspicion toward Lia when it becomes clear that no one stays that calm without having too much to hide. But it is the ambiguity between them that makes the story truly sharp. Lia may be staying silent because she wants to trace the network all the way to its roots. Or she may be silent because she is part of it herself and is only making sure no one ruins the timing before the appointed hour. Grayson may be forced to work for the plasma ring to keep his mother safe. Or his story about his mother may be the most perfect cover ever created to manipulate Ashley. The way they watch each other does not just create suspense. It opens the door to something even more terrifying. In this game, even the suspicious ones may still be puppets controlled by someone even more dangerous. Garland Memorial is therefore no longer just the setting of a twisted emotional storyline. It has become the center of a hidden war between people all willing to betray in order to survive. One person hides things to maintain control. One lies to escape. One loves while being forced to learn how to doubt. When those three lines collide, what explodes will not only be the secret of the plasma ring, but the very foundation of trust that once allowed them to stand. And that is what makes this story so gripping in the most dangerous way. Because the final truth may not come wearing the comforting shape of justice. It may reveal that inside a rotten system, no one remains completely clean. Lia may once have believed she was cold enough to stand outside emotion, but once the shell of control begins to crack, she will have to face the fury of the people she manipulated. Grayson may once have believed he still had a way back, but when Ashley no longer looks at him with love and instead with the eyes of someone who has awakened, he will understand that the greatest price is not prison or pursuit, but the moment when the one person who believed in him sees what he really is. And Ashley, pushed into a corner between love, morality, and the danger swallowing the hospital, will no longer have the right to be soft. She will become the emotional center of the storm to come, the one forced to decide whether to save a drowning man or tear down the entire curtain covering Garland Memorial. Even if doing so buries everything she once believed in. When a place of healing becomes a cover for tainted blood, when the person in charge appears everywhere they should not be. When the most pitiful man may also be the link connecting the hospital to the darkness, then everything has gone too far to turn back. And the most chilling part is not who belongs to the plasma ring, but the feeling that all of them may have been trapped inside its circle for a very long time. Only now beginning to understand that every step they took, every secret they kept, every burst of anger they suppressed, had already been calculated in advance by an invisible hand.